And I welcome everyone to the course Soul Force and Social Change. We are in our 12th session out of 30 that the course has. Welcome to one another and welcome to you all. I am Michael Sunleitner. I'm facilitating the course. And today we will be looking at Gandhi in India. Not a big topic, only about 35 years of his life, any 1 year of which could be the topic for an entire hour session. So we're going to do it all in just 80 minutes. I don't think so, but we'll do our best to spark your interest, and then you will have to do research on your own. That's just the way of the world. Today, I think we will wait again to look at the slight changes in the requirements for the course. We can do that at the end of our session, as we did yesterday, hoping that more people will come and we'll hear about it. We have already posted some of those changes on our WhatsApp group, but I have not seen a whole lot of discussion relating to that. If there is anything that is unclear, that needs to be addressed, because poor communication certainly leads to very poor participation. And you can feel free to be critical of the course and even of the assignments. You can be critical of me. This is all right. The teacher is not God. There may be some idea of that in India, which when I was teaching in India always was to me an obstacle, because there was almost too much respect. We are all human beings here. We are all blind people touching the elephant, and some of us may know a little more than others, but certainly about many topics, people in this class participating know more than me. Yesterday, Sivi Joseph was with us, and I can easily say, regarding Gandhi in India, in South Africa, Sivi Joseph, the director of the Library and Research Center at Sevagram, he knows much more than me. And I think he was able to tremendously add to our learning understanding by being with us. Tomorrow, we are not being with us, but next Thursday, we will be seeing, in our next session after today, next Thursday, we will be seeing M.S. John, who is the editor of Gandhi Marg, the foremost journal of Gandhi in the world. He is Professor Emeritus at Mahatma Gandhi University in Kerala. I met him there when I was on a Fulbright grant teaching there. M.S. John is a wealth of knowledge, and I sincerely hope we have a maximum participation turnout for next Thursday, because M.S. John is a national treasure in India and deserves to be listened to. All right. So, again, I will say, is there anything you want to talk about? We will spend a little bit of time on things of interest to you. Then I will be getting into Gandhi in India. We will have I'm not sure if we'll have small groups, because already we are a fairly small group, but hopefully our numbers will increase. And then before we finish the day, I will be especially interested in clarifying any course requirements, any of the changes. I don't want to be confusing. Okay? So first, is there anything you want to talk about from yesterday? From course sessions before?
Yes, Professor, I'm sorry.
Good.
I was not with you guys yesterday, though I was in the meeting, but I felt asleep because I've been sick all these days and I was at the hospital yesterday.
Ah,
So I want to know what has been discussed pertaining to the change of the course, please.
well, bye. I'm hoping you are feeling better today. And I also overslept by 5 minutes yesterday. So it was a crazy day. In terms of what we covered yesterday, we covered Gandhi in South Africa. That was the syllabus topic. And that is what Sibby Joseph and I discussed and what we had small groups about. It was recorded. So any sessions that any of you miss or which the public desire to have access to are available at the Wiki Nonviolence Library website, I believe. Yes, Hartal?
Not it on website, but on YouTube channel, yes.
On the YouTube channel associated with Wiki.
Wiki.
You might want to make sure that Bai and others know exactly where to access the recorded sessions.
Yes, yes. Yesterday's session will upload today. Yes.
Thank you very much. So, Bai, I'm not going to repeat yesterday, but I certainly invite you and others that missed yesterday to check out the recording. And that is the way you can make up the class.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Abai, and I hope you feel better. All right. Is there anything else that anyone would like to discuss? The elections in Germany are tomorrow. There are demonstrations in the United States today relating to Mr. Trump. The world has become a much more crazy place. So anything that is happening that is in your mind um, disturbing, we can always ask the question, what would Gandhi do? And in the month of March, we will be spending a month on Martin Luther King Jr., so we can ask, what would Martin Luther King do? Yes? And we can tie it into the course. The discussion is always relevant to the course. I don't want to just be talking about dead people in the past. I want us to better understand their relevance today. And I mean today. I mean the elections in Germany tomorrow. So I hope we can find relevance always to our interest. Bye. You have another thing you want to say?
Not for now. If there is anything, I will tell you.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Are you want to speak now? Ali, I know you're becoming an expert with Gandhi and King. Increasingly, I will be depending upon you to help add to the discussion.
Good
Yes.
morning.
Greetings. And I hope that I'm not going to twist your arm. Certainly, I'm not going to break your arm. That would be violent and violent. Those of you who certainly, I know, have information to share, collectively, this can be a far better course if we all contribute. Okay? Passive learning is passive learning. If you actively learn and participate, you're far more likely to get more learning out of it. So, shall we go to India? Many of you are already in India, but let us take Gandhi to India.
Michael, I have a question.
Yes, Harshal.
Nowadays, the serious problem in world that, according to me, is the climate change.
Mhm.
And in Paris, agreement, all countries come together and did target to reduce pollution. But nobody is following that rule, and now uh, temperature is increasing day by day, and it is not possible now to reduce that things or pollution. So in that case, as it will affect normal people, poor peoples than the rich peoples, how Gandhi will react on these problems, or how he will oppose this, means what will be his strategies?
Well, first, let us not speak in binary terms, because some countries are very assertively seeking to achieve their climate emission goals. Germany has been better than others. The United States is among the worst. The United States joined the Paris Agreement, but under Donald Trump, withdrew in his first presidency and has withdrawn now in his second presidency. And the United States is, depending on the greenhouse gas, first or second in the world in emissions. China is number one in carbon dioxide. US is number two. But the US is number one in methane, which is a much more powerful greenhouse gas. So you're right. The world's temperatures are being broken. The records, each of the past 2 years, are hotter and hotter globally. This is impacting weather patterns. We can see in so many ways the impacts. The Philippines have had 4 major typhoons, really horrible typhoons, in the past 6 years. In the United States, we have had historic fires in California recently.
Yes.
We are having flooding issues, unusually cold winters in the East. We can go on and on. Is this irreversible? No. We can always wake up and potentially, in a very rapid way, change our ways. It's difficult to turn the clock back, but through planting more trees, through tending our oceans, where life is a major absorber of carbon dioxide,
Mhm.
it is possible to go back somewhat in time with great effort. I think Gandhi would say, before you reverse the train, you must stop it. So don't just talk about mitigation, that is, trying to adjust to climate change. That may need to happen also, but you need to stop the train.
Mhm.
The train is out of control. It's never too late to stop the train. So stop it. Not just join the Paris Accords, but be very aggressive in your reduction of fossil fuel use, in your production of methane, which is coming from many sources, but feedlots where cattle and pigs are raised for eating in the United States are a major source of methane in the United States. Building dams that flood vast areas for hydroelectric power, the rotting trees and the rest that are covered by the water are a major source of methane. So certainly we need to reduce our reliance upon building new dams and eating meat, especially that meat that is bred in feedlots where the excrement is open and untreated. There are many steps we can take. As individuals, eat less meat. That's fairly simple. I mean, I've been a vegetarian for over 50 years. I'm not dead yet. I enjoyed some excellent masaman curry at a Thai restaurant last night with tofu. You can have a very enjoyable life and not eat meat. Obviously, our countries need to produce power that reduces reliance upon fossil fuels. Germany is thinking of bringing more nuclear power back. While it is true that nuclear power does not produce carbon dioxide, it does produce radioactive waste.
Yes.
And while that does not contribute to climate change, it certainly is disastrous for humankind. It's a disaster waiting to happen. Radioactive byproducts of nuclear fission are dangerous for 10,000 years. And as yet, we don't have any solution to how to contain the waste safely for that long. So for future generations, we ought not, in my opinion, be using nuclear power. Not until you clearly have a solution for the waste problem, which we do not. I'm going to say what Gandhi would say, I believe, and it's hard. You need to live simply so that other people can simply live. You must change your lifestyles, humankind. You are reaping what you sow. You must use less electricity so you don't need to produce as much electricity. You should grow locally and eat locally and not depend upon fossil fuel transportation to bring your strawberries from the country of Chile to the United States. Or even bring your apples from Kashmir down to Kerala. Why can't in Kerala, in India, you simply really enjoy the tremendous variety of bananas and guava and all sorts of other fruits? Why do you have to have apples? Maybe as a special treat. There can be some apples from Kashmir. But why can't you simply eat locally, grow locally, abide by Swadeshi as an economic philosophy, decentralize? Why do you have to depend upon major corporations like Walmart and like Reliance in India? Why? Are not the local markets providing you healthy food? We need to change our lifestyles, according to Gandhi. It is not just a matter of improving our technology. Gandhi clearly believed in his life in appropriate technology. Decide the future you want and then develop and adapt technology that will help you build that future. It is, I would say, ass backwards or completely wrong-headed to say, let us just have a wonderful experiment in technology, produce whatever we can, and then we'll see what happens, and then we'll make use of it because there's profit to be made. Gandhi would say, look, technology should not decide policy. Policy should decide technology. Take control of your lives. Empower yourselves to live more simply, but also to decide what sort of society you want, and then have wonderful technology that will help you produce and maintain that society. Not all technology is equally good. Not all that glitters is gold. Be very, very careful with artificial intelligence. Very, very careful. There may be some appropriate ways to use this, but it seems that much of the world is just moving headlong into this new technology. It shines. We like to see shiny things. Well, it can burn us. It can burn us badly.
Yes.
So that is what I hear Gandhi saying. It is not too late. It is never too late. Nothing is impossible for God. Gandhi would say, nothing is impossible for God. But you must align yourself with the truth that is God, embody that truth in your life, and be willing to fight for it non-violently. As a satyagrahi, you must be willing to die for your truth so that others may live. That is the only way that radical change can take place anywhere. Military soldiers must be willing to die for what they believe. Nonviolent soldiers must be willing to die for what they believe. There's no difference in that regards. So he would say, be a satyagrahi. It is time now to resist.
Professor Michael.
Yes.
Actually, whenever you are speaking about dying, it is something strange for me. For example, if you are very much interested, if we are very much interested to die. So it's a kind of violence against ourselves.
Well, many cultures now are death avoidant. We don't want to talk about it. We don't want to. Gandhi is not wanting to die. He is saying you must be willing to die. That this body is going to die someday. Accept it. Don't worry about discussing it. It's going to happen. If you're too concerned about dying, you cannot really live well. Your fears are going to control you.
Yeah.
And other people will control you using fear. Donald Trump is very good at that. Adolf Hitler was very good at that. Narendra Modi is very good at that. So the way to resist power is to live well. But to truly live well, I'm sorry, Reza, you need to die for something. Or you are living in fear and you are more easily controlled. Gandhi was very practical. That's why he spoke in these terms. If we love those who do not love us, as a practical matter, you're going to suffer. We don't like to talk about suffering, voluntary suffering. But for Gandhi, that was the essence of love. If you love only those who love you, how much better are you than the Pharisees? Now I am channeling Jesus, right? But Gandhi was incredibly impressed by Jesus. You know, read Matthew 5-7, the Sermon on the Mount. Gandhi, a Hindu, said that the Sermon on the Mount is the essence of all religion. It's not just Christian. The message on the Sermon on the Mount needs to be in our hearts. Take no thought of the morrow. The morrow will take thought of things for itself. Sufficient to the day is the evil thereof. Be as the lilies of the field. They don't sow nor reap, but their heavenly Father feeds them. You must do what is right and be willing to be like the birds. And the birds, by the way, are very conscious of death. They don't have long lives. I'm not sure how conscious they are, but the bottom line is where they don't know where their food is coming from. Jesus and Gandhi are saying you need to live in a similar way. Have faith that if you're with the truth, God will protect those for whom God has a purpose. Especially if you are a soldier, you must have the faith that your cause is just, climate change is real, you need to address it aggressively, or it will kill you. Accept that, okay? And it will kill future generations. Not just people, but species. Over 1 million species are in danger of becoming extinct in the next 10 years because of this.
Yes.
We need to fight for them. Harshal?
Yes, but I always afraid to become a satyagrahi to fight against the climate change because we have very less time to fight against it, because once it's goes uh, if it is not in our control, because we have only 5 to 7 years to control it. After that, climate change will not be in our control, and satyagrahi or non-violent way will take more time to resist the thing. Maybe I am wrong. That's why I'm understanding. That's why I'm afraid to become a satyagrahi or non-violent person to protest against climate change.
Well, the fear is the great enemy.
Yeah.
And again, Gandhi had faith that nothing is impossible for God and that people can be extremely creative. It has been shown, for example, by science that grinding limestone into a very fine powder-like substance and distributing it massively over forests and crops and living plants dramatically increases their growth, dramatically increases their ability to absorb carbon dioxide. We can wake up and dramatically undertake change if we choose. And if our governments don't choose to do so, then like Greta Thunberg, we need to sit on their doorsteps, we need to speak out and organize, and we need to bring pressure. We cannot be simply afraid of the idea, it may be too late, it may be too late, oh my God, it may be too late. Maybe the ultimate solution is not in our individual hands.
Yes.
But we know that we can reap what we sow. We can now reap very bad, harmful things that we and past generations have sown. But we know that if we sow new crops today, treat them with limestone, stop the destruction of the Brazilian rainforests, dramatically improve the conditions of the oceans to be able to absorb carbon dioxide. If we do these things, we know we can do them.
Yeah.
The change can happen fast.
Okay.
And if you always wait for someone else to act, well, you're going to be waiting a very long time. And that will be the end of the world as we know it. So don't wait for other people. Organize.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, that's my pep talk for the day. I see that we are still a relatively small group. It is okay. I have given you these timelines so you can take screenshots. And most of this we will not be able to cover, certainly in the next or so that we have, less than 1 hour. But you can take it. You can use it as a study guide. You can look up on Google different events on that timeline, like the Ahmedabad textile strike, Satyagraha, the Kita Satyagraha, the Bardoli Satyagraha. You can do that on your own. The timeline may help you as a template to undertake a greater, more deep understanding of Gandhi historically, if you like. In my simple comments that I planned for today, I did not plan to cover everything on the 2 timeline slides that we have here. Gandhi has had in his lifetime at least 17 major fasts where he undertook fasting as a strategy to bring about change. Today I will be mentioning only 2. In India, he had at least 7 Satyagraha campaigns. That is, nonviolent resistance campaigns against what he saw as injustice. I will probably mention only 3. If Sibi were with us today, he would probably be very upset. But we have the reality of time and space. And so let me make some simple comments, and then we will have time for discussion. Is that okay? Okay. Now, of course, we're talking about the time frame where Gandhi got back to India in 2015, January. And of course, it will continue to his assassination on January 30th, 1948. Again, any year of Gandhi's life would have a tremendous amount of discussion worthy of it. But let us just say that yes, Gandhi founded 3 ashrams, one for only 2 years, then he was at Sabarmati for over 30 years, and then he went to Sevagram, where Sippy Joseph is the director of programs, in 1932. 1936. He went into Sevagram. So what were some of the highlights, you might say, of Gandhi's at least Satyagraha idea coming into being? Well, I'll mention 3. One is the non-cooperation movement of 1920. I will also mention the Salt Satyagraha of 1930. And I will spend some time at the end of Gandhi's life looking at the Noakhali March and the Calcutta Fast. Regarding the non-cooperation movement of 1920, this was the first major uprising against the British colonial power in India. It had been sparked by what was known as the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, that is, the Amritsar massacre. A general by the name of Reginald Dyer, D-Y-E-R, in Punjab province, went into an enclosed area in the city of Amritsar, which had only one exit and one entrance. They were one and the same. He took his soldiers in there to teach a lesson to a crowd of mostly Sikh, but other Indian people who were demonstrating against British rule. General Dyer ordered his British and also British Indian soldiers to open fire. At least 379 people were executed by General Dyer, men, women, and children. Estimates of the dead are up to 1,500 killed. But at least 379 were killed. The bodies, of course, had to be disposed of quickly after the massacre. Many people believe that you need to have the burials within 24 hours, and so the documentation was not ideal. The numbers are not important. It was a massacre. It was a bloodthirsty murder of unarmed men, women, and children. General Dyer was allowed to retire with full pension benefits, even though the British had an inquiry and he was criticized. He was never punished in any way. This was the brutality of British rule in India at its lowest point. It shocked Gandhi, the reformer, to the core. It helped make him a revolutionary. He says after the Amritsar massacre, this event revealed to me a new truth. I have new information. Now it is my clear opinion that British rule is more a harm than good in India. The balance has shifted. The British must go. He becomes a revolutionary. Again, it's not either or, reformer or revolutionary. Gandhi is evolving. But Amritsar pushed him across the line into become a revolutionary. Within about a year after, there was a non-cooperation movement led by Gandhi and the Congress Party, which began with a strike across all of India where people were fasting, but that meant they would not go to work. And the entire British administration of India depended upon people going to work, Indian people. And when they refused en masse on one day to fast, it was not even technically called a strike. The one-day fast showed to Indian people the power that they had collectively. And that began the non-cooperation movement. Throughout India, there were demonstrations for independence. Mostly the demonstrations, inspired by Gandhi, were conducted with nonviolent discipline. However, this is kind of an historic event. It was called the Chori Chori. Again, sometimes it's called a massacre, but it was a killing. At a police station in Chori Chori in North India, demonstrators became angry at a police, attacked the police station, burned it to the ground, and killed the police officers in the station. These were demonstrators not being nonviolent. And of course, it made headlines that the protesters had killed the British police officers. They were Indians, but they were working for the British. And Gandhi decided to call off the movement. Probably the first time I can think of in the history of humankind where a movement full-fledged for independence throughout the nation of India, being guided by Gandhi, was called off by Gandhi. He undertook a fast until the fighting and the movement would stop. He was criticized by the Congress Party leaders, Nehru and others. You can't do this. You can't do this. And Gandhi's response was, I cannot lead a movement of violence like this. My people are not ready for nonviolence. The discipline I require of them, they are not prepared. I think I was wrong. This is kind of an ultimate truth. Yes, I am a revolutionary, but I want a nonviolent revolutionary. And my truth now is that my people are not ready for my kind of revolution. So I will fast until the movement stops. In a sense, he fasted against his own people. And miraculously, they responded, and the movement was ended. It took some time. But think about that. Gandhi, as a satyagrahi, is moving from truth to truth. He is always learning new information, and that is part then of his new truth. Yes? When he came to hold the realization that his people were not yet ready for independence, he called off the independence movement. Can you imagine any other leader ever doing that? And he succeeded. It stopped. A year later, Gandhi was arrested for being a subversive, and he was. He was tried, convicted, sentenced to 6 years in prison, and he actually asked the judge to give him the maximum sentence because Gandhi believed his being in prison would symbolize the ongoing resistance of the Indian people against British rule. You always live by example. You do not partial. You don't avoid suffering. He asked for the maximum sentence. And the judge was apologetic about giving it to him because the judge himself, a British judge, was moved by Gandhi. Individuals are affected by their willingness to sacrifice. Other people do impact them. Well, that was perhaps the end of that, but Gandhi was released from prison 2 years later because he had an appendicitis attack, a medical condition which required surgery, and the British did not want him to become a martyr killed in a British prison. That would simply it wouldn't look good. And so he was released from prison, and then much of the 1920s, Gandhi was engaged in constructive program. He continued to move towards independence. He preached Swadeshi, self-reliance. He engaged in a boycott of all foreign cloth, not just British cloth. He wanted people to weave their own cloth, weave their own clothes, and stop buying foreign textiles. And he even presided over the burning of piles and piles of foreign clothing. He was criticized by Rabindranath Tagore, the poet. This is such a waste, Gandhi. And Gandhi's position was, that may be true, but we psychologically must free ourselves from the British. We must come to respect ourselves. It is empowering to wear your own clothes made by your own hand and not depend upon foreign sources. The clothes might not be as beautiful. They might not be as good. They might not be as warm. But that is not the point. You need to encourage people to respect themselves. And if we learn to rule ourselves better in the future, no other country or power will be able to rule over us. Gandhi was looking long term, you see? And his message took root. Piles and piles of clothing were burned. This affected the British textile manufacturers in Britain. They realized that India was on its road to independence. In 1930, the Congress Party was becoming very impatient. Gandhi, we already see that you are the father of the nation, but Bapu, you need to do something. We in the Congress Party want action. And if Bapu, you're not willing to undertake the action, we will. And it might not be as nonviolent as you would like. There were many in the Congress Party, of course, like Subhash Chandra Bose, who openly advocated a violent revolution. So in 1930, Gandhi was under great pressure to come up with an idea, an alternative to violent revolution. And while he was visiting his childhood home in Porbandar on the coast of India, in Gujarat state, Gandhi has an insight. He's a very intuitive person. He might not have been a great intellectual mind, but he was very open to creative insight. Yes? And it came to him that there was a salt tax in India, that the British have a monopoly on all salt production. Salt is needed in the hot climate of India for some minimal health for the poor. And then the British required a small tax to be paid for their own production of salt. Gandhi thought, and this was brilliant, this is a law that everyone can break. We can have a campaign against the salt tax, and we can produce our own salt illegally because we're surrounded by oceans. India is a big peninsula, and we can produce our own salt from the oceans. So this is something all Indians can do. I will call for a salt satyagraha. Well, Mr. Gandhi, this is not really a very physical approach against the British because the salt tax is almost nothing. It doesn't help very much at all to pay for the British colonial presence. And Gandhi is saying that's not the point. I'm not trying to coerce the British. I'm not trying to force them by refusal to pay taxes to their knees. I am simply wanting a symbol that all Indians can grasp and act on so that we can resist the British by going to jail in mass. That's the point. It's not to coerce the British, it's to show them how empowered we are and willing to rule ourselves we are. And so he begins the Salt Satyagraha with what was known as the Dandi March. The Dandi March began in Sabarmati Ashram, in Sabarmati in Ahmedabad. And the plan was to walk 241 miles to the ocean at Dandi Beach, D-A-N-D-I Beach. And this would take 24 days. And we will then make salt out of the ocean, and we will break the law. And we will encourage everyone throughout the country to break the law. Why 24 days, Gandhi? Well, Gandhi is saying, look, we need to build momentum. He was a great strategist. I will leave the ashram, Sabarmati ashram, with 79 people, just the people living at the ashram and a few others, a small group. And we will begin, and we will invite people along the way. And by the 24 days were ended, over 10,000 people were at the beach. So he starts with a very disciplined small group. He then adds people along the way. And Gandhi was asked, well, Mr. Gandhi, what if the British, they arrest you, maybe on the first day, on the second day? Gandhi said, this is not important. I am living by example. I want everyone to go to jail. If I'm the first, this will be a great honor. This is not me leading the movement. In a sense, I am the general who has created the campaign, but the soldiers need to lead themselves. They need a general who lives by example. So I don't care if I'm arrested. Bring it on. Others will continue. And basically everyone knew that if they were not disciplined, Gandhi might call off the entire movement. He had already done it once before, right? 10 years before. And so Gandhi was a general with discipline. His message, he hoped, had taken root. Well, eventually Gandhi was arrested, but not at Dandi Beach. He had written another letter to the viceroy saying that I plan to be leading an attack, if you will, to seize control of the Darshana salt works, a major salt works that the British had to produce salt. And Gandhi said, I'm going to be joining other Satya resistors, and we're going to occupy the salt works. And this is the day. He's already telling, there are no secrets. Gandhi tells the British ahead of time when the Dandi March is beginning, when it will end. He's telling people ahead of time when he's going to lead an occupation of the salt works. No secrets. But he sets it up so that no matter what the British do, they lose. If they let him continue, they lose. If they arrest him, they lose. If they arrest 100,000 people, they lose. And in fact, during the course of the year of the Salt Satyagraha, 100,000 people went to jail. It was the largest civil disobedience campaign on the history of the planet. It is what impressed Martin Luther King to believe that massive nonviolent action that is disciplined is possible. Gandhi showed it was possible. Well, he was arrested the day before the assault on Darshana Salt Works was to take place. But again, his soldiers, his satyagrahis, continued. And on that one day, British and British-led soldiers beat 1,500 people. Some of them died. They were beaten with lathes, with sticks with steel tips on the end. One row of satyagrahis would go into the salt works entrance. The soldiers would beat them until they were unconscious. Women would carry the bodies away. Another row would go in, beat them. Another row would go in, beat them. 1,500. Think about that. Unarmed, nonviolent resistors. Eventually, The soldiers could not beat them anymore, and the rest of the Satyagraha crowd occupied the salt works. And of course, it made worldwide news. No amount of censorship could silence this. 1,500 people beaten senseless, 100,000 people filling the jail. He silenced. Such international press and also public opinion within Britain required that the British come to the bargaining table. Gandhi was released from prison. The other Satyagrahis were released from prison. This was the Gandhi-Irwin Pact, and Gandhi agreed to travel to London for the Second Roundtable Conference to consider the independence of India. Many people consider the Roundtable Conference to be a failure because independence did not come to India for another 17 years. But for Gandhi, it's all a matter of process. In England, he lived with the poor, the British poor. He did not accept physical protection. He wore his own loincloth. He didn't change his clothing. The British public opinion dramatically changed in favor of India. At a textile mill where people had been thrown out of work because of Gandhi's boycott of foreign cloth, he met with the workers at the textile mill, unarmed, and apologized for their pain. Basically, he said, I had no choice but to have you suffer this way because in India, we are suffering much more because we do not have employment in India. We were too dependent upon foreign cloth. I'm sorry that you British people are out of work. But you need to understand that our pain is your pain, and we need to rule ourselves. Again, the Satyagrahi does not try to coerce the opponent. The Satyagrahi tries to touch the heart of the opponent. He wasn't trying to free India from under the British rifle. He was trying to free the British from behind the rifle. And yes, it took 17 more years. Eventually, after World War II, and another campaign during World War II called the Quit India Movement, after much jail going, after the loss of his wife and his secretary, Mahadev Desai, they both died while in custody during World War II. Gandhi emerged, and the British emerged, ready for independence. But they were not entirely ready. That is, the British had done a good job of dividing and ruling for 200 years. Muslims in Pakistan were demanding a separate country. Jinnah, the leader of the Muslim League, was demanding for East and West Pakistan to be separated from India. And for Gandhi, this was his homeland being partitioned, and he didn't want it. He considered fasting against the partition. He was categorically against it. And yet, other Congress Party leaders said, you can't stop this. Gandhi, people are demanding two-state solution. And if you fast, it will not work, they told him, and there will be civil war. So Gandhi, listening to his comrades, agreed not to fast against partition. His second solution was, let us give Jinnah the prime ministership. Perhaps we can keep a united India if our first prime minister is a Muslim. And he should be free to appoint to all government ministries. It wasn't that Gandhi liked Muhammad Ali Jinnah, it's that he was desperate to keep the country together. And again, his colleagues in the Congress Party said, no, if you do that, we will agree to you, Gandhi. You are the father of the nation, but the people will not understand, and there will be civil war. A minority Muslim population cannot be respected to rule the entire of India. So Gandhi let independence take place as the British had proposed, a two-state solution. On Independence Day, he did not celebrate. He fasted in penance because he knew that his country was not really ready for independence. As independence was declared in August of 1947, rioting began breaking out. And eventually, over the next few months, over 1 million Indians died. Entire trainloads full of bodies of Hindus came from Pakistan into India. Entire trainloads full of bodies of Muslims moved from India to Pakistan. Over 1 million dead, over 10 million refugees. It was like civil war was taking place in the partition. For those who suggest that Gandhi agreed to the partition of India, I suppose you can say he did, but only under great pressure. It was not what he wanted. He did everything he could to stop it, and he was unable to. When the violence broke out, Gandhi actively sought to bring peace. I see we're running short on time. There may be some of this can continue in our next session, but to just continue with the flow, and I see there are more of you present. Gandhi undertook a foot march in Noakhali district of what is now Bangladesh. In Noakhali, primarily Muslim, attacks upon Hindus were taking place. And Gandhi, obviously looking like a Hindu, from village to village in that district, trying to bring peace, and he would stay in one village until the fighting stopped. He would have prayer meetings. On the pathway to some villages, people would throw glass on the path, and Gandhi would take off his shoes and accept the cutting of his own feet. You see, Gandhi recognized the power of suffering. In one village, there was an event which I think is not well known. You probably not read it in a biography, but I interviewed Gandhi's personal secretary, N.K. Bose, who was with him on that Noakhali walk, that Padayatra. And when I interviewed N.K. Bose, he said, well, we were at a prayer meeting, and As usual, Gandhi was on a slightly raised platform, and as usual, he was having the Quran read, he was having the Bhagavad Gita read, he was having Christian scriptures read. It was a very ecumenical service. And from the back of the crowd, a very large Muslim man with a sword in his hand began coming towards Gandhi. This is an eyewitness, Gandhi's secretary, telling me this. The people in the crowd, perhaps 300 people in the prayer meeting, they were sitting on the ground. They did not resist. They were all surprised that they were coming towards Gandhi with a sword. The man got within about 2 meters of Gandhi. He fell to his knees and the sword dropped out of his hand. Now, immediately, the crowd began worshiping Gandhi as God. A miracle has taken place. A miracle. Gandhi then reprimanded the crowd, saying, no miracle has taken place here. This is soul force. That is, by appealing to the good side of this person with the sword, today, the good side won. Tomorrow, I might die. So you see, Harshal, Gandhi's willingness to die was part of his power. You see it?
Yes.
Now, you can decide whether this was a miracle or not, but Gandhi did not think it was a miracle. He believes that soul force is within each of us because the soul is within each of us, because it is the same soul, the Spirit of God, within every man, woman, and child, the same spirit of life that is within all of creation. If we can be in touch with it and be willing to sacrifice our bodies for its sake so that it can shine. Gandhi believed the light of God can shine, and that power can disarm, can literally disarm lions in a den of lions. It can certainly disarm a man with a sword in his hand. But there is no guarantee. Tomorrow I might die. His fast in Calcutta, of course, is played up in the film Gandhi. It deserves to be certainly showcased because that many people call it the miracle of Calcutta. Gandhi undertook a fast to the death in Calcutta to stop the rioting between Muslims, Hindus, and Sikhs in that city. Over 10,000 Indian troops, because India was independent, and the soldiers could not do it. Gandhi undertook a fast against his own people to try to bring them to their senses. It ended up to be a 4-day fast. On the 3rd day, the 78-year-old Gandhi was having kidney failure. So he was very close to death. And Mr. Gandhi, what good will your death bring? And Gandhi's response was, I don't want to live in a world where my brothers and sisters are killing one another. He was somewhat suicidal. He did not want to live in a world where his brothers and sisters were killing one another. But Mr. Gandhi, do you want to coerce them to be peaceful? And Gandhi said, no. It is not my desire to coerce, to make somebody act against their will. No. I want to try to compel them to reflect upon what they are doing. And I want them to voluntarily stop. Well, how are they going to prove to you, Gandhi, that they are sincere? Well, Gandhi said, well, I want a statement signed by every major religious leader in Calcutta saying not only that they want the rioting to stop, but they are willing to die to help make it stop. Again, back to the death theme, right? Have me break this fast. You must show your sincerity with a written statement. On the fourth day, he had his written statement, and the rioting had completely ended throughout the then most populated city of India. One man had accomplished what over 10,000 soldiers could not. The rioting stopped. When the rioting stopped and he had the written statement, Gandhi then said, okay, I will break the fast. But if the fighting returns, he said, and this is coming from Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, who I interviewed in Afghanistan. Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan was with Gandhi in Calcutta. He said that if the rioting begins again, I will declare another fast to the death, and the next fast will be irrevocable. So he sealed the peace with his own life. And rioting did not break out in Calcutta again. A few months later, in January 30th, 1948, Gandhi was assassinated. That discussion, if you want, we can take next week. But this has not been a comprehensive understanding of Gandhi in India. I hope that it has inspired you to do more research on your own. You can make use of the timeline that I provided. And anything that you find of real interest to you personally in Gandhi's life and actions during this period in India, please raise the questions. Next week, we will have a really wonderful guest speaker on Thursday, and our sessions on Friday and Saturday. Yes, they have topics, but frankly, the course is yours. And so anything you want to discuss, you bring to those sessions, and we will do our best to take time for them. Okay? Sadly, I talk too much, but that is life. Is there anything that you would like to discuss a little, and especially relating to the course requirements, but anything from today? I see Reza had his hand up. Reza? You always have something to say, Reza.
Thank you very much, Professor. Just I wanted to thank you for the nice presentation.
Well, again, I'm trying to encourage you to learn on your own.
Thank you, sir.
Gandhi has inspired me. That is obvious. He is not a perfect person in any way. He would not claim that. He didn't even claim to be a Mahatma. He got very angry with people who would call him Mahatma because he knew he was not perfect. At one time in India, a village raised a small temple in his name. And Gandhi went to the village and had them demolish the temple. He didn't want any temple in his name. So look at this human being and the remarkable things that he accomplished. He himself thought he was a failure. At the end of his life, he thought he was a failure. He had not successfully kept India whole. It had been divided. There was still rioting and problems in various parts of the country, not Calcutta. Refugees were still suffering, Hindus in India, Muslims in Pakistan. Gandhi felt he was a failure. You can agree with him if you like. Of course, it's a matter of degree. But from my point of view, what he accomplished in one lifetime was amazing. When you have as your desire the kingdom of God on earth, you're going to be a little frustrated because it might not happen in one lifetime, Mr. Gandhi. Maybe you were a little bit too high expectations. Yeah? Well, I'm hoping you found something today. Certainly, if you have any questions regarding the course requirements or anything that you would like to discuss with me personally, feel free to contact me.